All right, well, we're going to get ready to take a break here in a few minutes, but we've got a great show lined up for you tonight. Coming up after our first break, we have Mr. Richard Stripp, who is the author of Mommy, I Wish I Could Tell You What They Did to Me in School Today. It's a very riveting book. I had the opportunity to read it. It's a very easy, very quick read. You can probably do it in about a couple of hours, actually. It's very, once you get into it, you can't put it down. And it's unbelievable, the stories that are in there. He'll be on after the first break, and then coming up after we speak with Richard, we've got Mr. Keon Lomax. Alrighty, thank you very much, Harry. And we are back. And on the phone with us from the beautiful Garden State of New Jersey is Mr. Richard Stripp. Are you there?
How you doing, Mike?
Good. How you doing, man? Thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Good. We got just so you'll hear some other voices here. You've got Brent's one of my co-hosts as well as Harry is. So if you hear some different voices chiming in, that's who we got going on here.
All right. Hello to everybody.
Hey, I'm Brent.
Hello, Brent.
And Strasvika, Harry.
Would you say?
Strasvika.
If you can't tell, I'm the cool one.
These guys are a bunch of clowns. So
that's fine.
So anyway, Richard has written a book that is called "Mommy, I Wish I Could Tell You What Happened to Me in School Today," and quite an interesting tale of a couple of different students that you've had contact with before. Can you tell us a little bit, I guess, first of all, if you can give us a little bit of background on you, and then we can go from there?
Sure. For the last decade or so, I've been working in schools that service special needs students with various disabilities. And after 10 years of working in some of these schools and seeing what goes on, I decided to write a book about it. And if I could just correct you, Michael, you got the title a little bit wrong. It's "Mommy, I Wish I Could Tell You What They Did to Me in School."
Oh, I'm sorry. You know, I've been saying that all day.
That's okay. That's okay. And some of these children, the things that happen to them are just horrendous. A lot of these children are nonverbal, so they can't go home and tell their folks what happened to them, which is why I came up with the title of the book the way that I did.
So that's what motivated you, was just like seeing this on a regular basis, and
yes, and before I get into specifics, I do want to just give you a quote from the book that's important to put out there too, and that is, it's important to remember that the majority of people that work with special needs children in our schools are very dedicated and caring. So I just want to put that out there. I state that in the book, and I just want to put that out there too. I don't want people to think that anyone that works with special needs children is this horrible monster, because that's not the case. It's just the opposite.
Right. I mean, you know, there's so many people that do dedicate their lives to helping kids. I mean, you can't throw, you know, the whole, you know, bushel of apples out for just a couple of bad ones.
And the way I put the book together was, there's 10 children that have their own chapters in the book, and they speak in the book, and I use the word speak with quotations around it because the majority of children in this book are nonverbal. So what you're reading is my perspective of what they might say if they could speak. And everything that they speak about and everything that I speak about in the book is based on actual events. And
well, let me ask,
very disturbing things in there.
Yeah, so let me ask you this: the parents and or maybe the kids that are portrayed in the book, if after they read what you thought they might have said, how close were you to what they would have said? Has anybody said anything about that?
Yeah, actually, quite a few parents have basically told me that I just hit the nail right on the head. The very first boy that speaks in the book, his name is Adam, and that's actually his real name. And if you have a copy of the book, that's him that's portrayed on the cover of the book.
Right.
He was the main inspiration for me writing this book, just seeing what they did to him in school. he's just a lovely, wonderful child, and the way that he was treated was just horrendous. And,
yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, that was one of the ones that I read that I sat there with my jaw like scraping the ground going, I can't believe this.
Yeah.
You know, I guess if you can, just explain a little bit about Adam's story here.
Okay. Adam is a nonverbal young man who is autistic as well as having cerebral palsy. He is ambulatory to a point. He can walk. He does not need the use of a wheelchair unless he's walking a lot. Then he gets very tired, and then you have to put him in a chair. But he's just a young man that the first time that I saw him, he was strapped into what they call a Rifton chair. Rifton is the name of a company that makes chairs that are used for children for support, and it's a very good piece of apparatus if used properly. Unfortunately, a lot of times it's used improperly, and schools sometimes use it to restrain children, which is what was the case with Adam. And the first time that I saw him, he was strapped in this chair being pushed down the hallway, and he just looked miserable and just very unhappy. And I was new to the school, so I just introduced myself to him. I went up and said, hi, my name's Rick. Give me a high five. What's your name? And he got very excited, and the person pushing him identified him as Adam. And he got very excited, and off they went. And I just assumed that he was not able to walk, but that wasn't the case. He was able to walk, and they just had him in this chair to contain him. And they would just do things to him that were just horrendous. They would yell and scream at him, kept him strapped in the chair all day. He wasn't able to toilet himself, so he wore a pull-up. And they would just leave him in a urine-soaked and a feces-soaked diaper for hours on end. In a chapter in the book, we talk about how he had been sitting in his feces for hours, and he finally just reached into his pants and threw it, because that was the only way that he could communicate that he needed to be changed. And
this is after he had tried to tell them
absolutely
that he needed to be changed, but they wouldn't do anything about it.
No. And they would punish him by throwing away his food at lunchtime. They'd stick him in the corner, facing the walls, yelling and screaming at him and not letting him participate in the other activities that the other students were participating in. And his parents quite a few times came into the school to find their son strapped in this chair, just stuck in a corner being screamed out, and complained. And nothing was ever done about it. And one of the traits of autism, sometimes individuals on the autistic spectrum, they'll flap their hands and they'll rock their head from side to side, and that's just a trait of the disability.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with it. That's just how they express themselves and how they self-stimulate and how they control themselves. And there was an instance one day on a field trip where one of the teacher assistants witnessed Adam doing this and became upset about it, and actually was restraining his arms and his head because she did not like Adam acting as this way, as she put it. And then he became very upset, and he was actually in a wheelchair at on that field trip, and she actually sat on top of him to get him to try to calm down, and 4 staff members ended up carrying him off and putting him on the bus away from the other children. It was a situation that was just created, as far as the outburst goes, what they call an outburst, was just created by the staff. Adam was just being Adam and flapping his hands and rocking his head, and this one staff member decided that wasn't appropriate and ended up restraining him and sitting on him for no reason, and then, of course, he had a complete meltdown.
So are these mainstream teachers that just happen to have a special needs child, or were these actual special needs?
That particular situation was in a school which was strictly special needs children.
And he still acted like that towards this kid.
Yeah, and it's just one of the things I also talk about in the book is the lack of training that people have that work in some of these schools. I believe that if that assistant understood fully what autism was all about, that she never would have acted that way. But if you don't understand something, you're not going to be able to work with the individual.
What do you think is a solution here? I mean, obviously, in my mind, you have to be a certain kind of person with a certain level of compassion to do that job.
Absolutely.
Is it the training? Is it that they need
training
to be
is
a
a
better
very,
educated?
very important part, but it also is, and you bring up a very good point, it takes a specific type of individual to work with these students. It's a job that is not for everyone. It's certainly a very, very rewarding job. But you have to understand that sometimes a child might act out, and you might be the target of their aggression.
Yeah, you have to be able to take a lot to do that kind of a job as well,
absolutely. But one of the things that I always try to tell people is, this isn't this child's choice. If they had the choice, they wouldn't be this way. If they had the choice, they'd be able to speak. If they had the choice, they'd be able to change their own diaper. If they had the choice, they'd be able to walk. So it's not their fault that they're in the situation that they're in. And sometimes, if a child misbehaves, it's not because, probably the majority of times, it's not because they want to be a pain in the neck. It's because they're trying to communicate something, whether it be a physical ailment that they're experiencing, or frustration out of not being able to talk, or frustration out of not being able to ask and get what they want, that type of thing. So you have to understand all that, and you have to learn to read the signs.
Yeah, we have to get ready to take a quick break here, Richard, so I want you to hang tight till after the break. But there was one other thing in that Adams story that kind of got to me, too. I think there was something where somebody was pushing him down the corridor in a chair, and he got all excited to see you.
Yes. And
you said something about what a nice kid he was or something?
Yeah, he was. He just lit up like a Christmas tree when he saw me. He was so happy to see me, and I said to him how great it was to see him, and I said how he has such a beautiful smile. And the aide pushing him immediately responded, "There is absolutely nothing beautiful about this child," and just pushed him down the hallway. And Adam is a boy that understands everything that he hears, and that was just a cruel, terrible thing to say to someone.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Hey, we got Adam's mom on line 1 when we come back.
Oh,
so we'll be
okay.
able to talk with her.
Okay, great. All right, Rick, hang tight. We'll be back right after this break, and we'll get into this a little bit more.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
And next week with